So for my project, we're going to learn about the basics of After Effects and what you need to know when you first open it. So if we go ahead and open After Effects, this is what you're gonna find. Just a bunch of blank space pretty much. And the first thing you want to do is create a workspace for yourself and whatever you're doing. And in Premiere, they're called sequences. In Final Cut, I think they're just called projects. But in After Effects, they're called compositions because it's a composing software. So if we go to the top composition, we can click New Composition. And to set up your workspace, there's a few things you need to look at. First, you can name it something. I'm just going to leave it as Composition 1 for now. As the height and width, the height and width of your video. The ratio at 1920 by 1080 pixels is the ratio for 1080p HD video. So we're just going to leave it at that. But you could choose a preset from all this stuff. And next we can jump down to frame rate. Usually it's going to be 24 frames a second, but there's also 30 frames a second or 60 frames a second. So whatever your video file is, you can change it. We're just going to leave it at 24. And then down here at the duration, we're just going to make it 10 seconds long, like it already is. And we're going to go ahead and press OK. So once we do that, we get a workspace. First of all, we get in the middle of this big transparent thing that's 1920 by 1080 pixels, which is what we set it at. And then we have a timeline down here that's 10 seconds long. We can see at the end, and that's because we made it that way. And over here we can see it's 24 frames a second, just like we set it. So next thing you probably want to do is find a video file to start editing. And to do this, you're going to go to your Projects tab, which is all the Finder window with some files. I gathered two here that I'm going to use. Or you can double click and it'll open up the same thing. So we're going to go ahead and find this video file. And down here we're just going to click open. And it will add it to your Projects tab. And if we go up here, there's this box of information, and you can see it's called timelapse.mov. It's 1920 by 1080 pixels, which is 1080p HD. You can see the delta symbol and then a duration, and that means the change in time is 15 seconds, so basically it's 15 seconds long. The frame rate is 30 frames a second, and that's about it. So if we click on this, we could just drag it into here like that, but we can actually just drag it down to this button right here. That is if we hover over it, it's a create a new composition button. So if we drag it and let go on it, it makes a new composition with exactly the same settings as the photo file. So if we go to the composition and check the composition settings, we can see that it's 1920 by 1080, which is what this is. It's actually 30 frames a second now because that's what the video file was. And it's 15 seconds long now because that video file is 15 seconds long. So once we have the video file in here, it's going to appear right here where all the layers will in the timeline. And if we can, this is that time indicator, and you can scrub through it. You can see it's a time lapse. I'm running on a computer that doesn't have a lot of RAM, so if you go right here, you can change this to if you want to see it full quality, but we can go to half quality right now, so it'll load a little faster, and you can scrub through it a little easier. So then now you should probably learn up here the different tools in the toolbar. So the first tool is a selection tool, and that's just basically to do all your selections around everything, just everywhere in After Effects. It's kind of a standard tool. The hand tool is to move you're not actually moving the layers around, you're just moving how you like view it. So that's that. Zoom tool, which is the magnifying glass. If you just click somewhere, it will like zoom in, and that's pretty obvious. Next we have the rotation tool. If you hover over something and rotate it, it just does that. So you can get some good stuff with that. Next tool is the unified camera tool. We don't actually have a camera in the scene, but that pretty much just controls the view of your camera, which is like something else, but yeah. And this tool is called the pan behind, or the anchor point tool. And what an anchor point is like the center point of all your transformations. So it's going to be this little like dot in the middle, if you can see it. And if it's right in the middle, and we go to like the rotation tool, it will rotate around that point. But say we use the anchor point tool, the pen behind tool, and we move it over here, and then go to the rotation tool again, it's going to rotate around that point right there. So that's like the center point of everything. It's called the anchor point. So we can just move that right back in the middle. The next thing we have is there's like a group of tools: rectangle, rounded, rectangular, ellipse, polygon, and star. And these are fixed mask shapes. So if we go to the rectangle tool, you'll get this like aimer point kind of thing in your composition. And if you drag it, you can create a mask that's like a perfect square or rectangle, whichever you want. Or you could go to like the star, and that will create like a star mask, whichever way you want. The next tool we have is the pen tool, or the, if you see up here, it's the Roto Bezier tool. And this is like creating masks with a specific shape that you want. So it can be any shape that you want. You can just make it yourself, and it will, once you connect the first point to the last point, then it will make the mask. The next tool is the text tool, and you get this kind of like typing thing, and if you click and drag, it makes like a text box, and you can just type like whatever you want. And if you notice, if we go back to our selection tool, once we created this this text in your timeline, it created a new layer, and we can go ahead and delete that, but you should just note that like text is a different layer. Then these next tools, the brush tool is pretty much the paintbrush within Photoshop, so that's pretty similar. We don't really need to go over that. The clone stamp tool, this is going to look really bad, but you can hold down Alt and it creates this like aimer. And what the aimer does is, once you're holding down Alt, you can click and you can tell After Effects where you want to get the color from, and then as you paint it, you can see that it's like painting over with the color from where you clicked before. And obviously this looks really bad, but you can like get pretty good results with it if you use it well, and you can like take people out of scenes and a lot of stuff like that. So next tool is the eraser tool, which is pretty self-explanatory. Bring it over here, and if you toggle the transparency, you can see that you just erased that part of the video. So that's pretty easy. The next tool is the Roto Brush tool, which is creating a mask for a moving item, pretty much. And it's pretty similar to some tools in Photoshop. If you like drag over here, it will like find the boundaries for like certain colors. So that's how you do that if you want to mask out like a moving object. And the last tool is the puppet pin tool. And if we go and we find a new file, we can just double click in our projects and it'll bring this up. And I just got this picture from Google. That's just like a stick man. And if we drag into a new composition and we go to full resolution, you can see it's just like a stick man. But if we go to the puppet pin tool, we can give it like joints around its body as like a person would, or like a character. And from these joints you can like move their, it's not going to work well with this, especially because there's like a layer, but you can do like a lot of things, like make it run, I guess, like move its leg back and forth. And so it's a pretty good tool, so you don't have to go into like heavy animation in like Cinema 4D or like Maya, stuff like that. So you can animate pictures like that. And that was the last tool in the toolbar. So that is a pretty brief explanation of the very first things you guys should know when you open up After Effects. So thank you.